Thank you guys again for the presentation. I appreciate just what consummate professionals you all are every step of the process and for lending that expertise to our group today. And looking forward to taking a tour of the building. And I appreciate everybody really hanging with us with this event space. We had a conference that was going on down the road who came in and visited. This is not typical patrons of this coffee shop, but we appreciate y'all sticking with us. We're just around the corner from the N Street Loft, so we'll look forward to taking that tour later. One thing that I'll highlight, guys, is next time you do one of these buildings, all the trouble that you ran into with customs and importing, you don't have to do that. Next building, we'll just get all that from Nick, and we'll do it here. Yes, ma'am.
Matt, do you know what percentage of the mass timber used in the U.S. is imported as opposed to being manufactured domestically?
Nick, you have a sense of that?
Something accurate, I'd say there's 30%.
Imported or 30% imported?
30% imported, according to our expert on importing and exporting. And I think that's probably accurate to say. And yet, no harm against Binderholz. They own 2 sawmills here, and I'll say it to camera wherever we are here. Thomas, you got to build a mass timber building here. You use all that wood that you're carrying. So anyway, I'll quit picking on Binderholz. I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Joseph Bromovsky. Joe is part of the team at Algoma. They are, as I mentioned earlier, part of our Mass Timber Accelerator. So we've gotten to know this project team as a part of that project. They have a really, really compelling and interesting case for mass timber and the delivery of that material on site. And we appreciate you guys applying for the Mass Timber Accelerator. And I would encourage anybody in this room who's maybe in the early processes of deciding if you want to use mass timber to apply for our next accelerator round. Miss Olivia in the back is going to be sending out some information after this meeting on the application process, which is relatively easy and not super rigorous, but it's really designed to help early projects get across that hump, and what you all mentioned, the kind of speed of learning how to acquire the material, get it to site in a professional way. So Joe is part of the Algoma team, principal and co-founder. He's from Harvard, so he's smarter than me. He also has an accent, which makes him sound more compelling than me as well. So join me in welcoming Joe.
Thank you, Matt, for that very kind introduction. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Bromovsky, as Matt said, CEO and co-founder of Algoma. We partner with real estate developers to try and simplify the delivery of mass timber buildings, try and take out some of the mystery of it. And we are working on a project here in Savannah. It is a 4-story multi-family building. It is on Waters Avenue in East 31st Street. It sits within an opportunity zone, and we're working with a Savannah developer on this project called Ace Real Estate Development. It sits within traditional commercial zoning, where they're trying to bring different types of mixed-use types of projects to the Waters Avenue corridor. It's 4 stories, 12 apartments. It is a concrete podium on the ground floor, and then 3 stories of mass timber. It's going to be a post and beam structure, like a lot of the projects we've seen today. And right now, we are applying for building permits, hoping to go into construction and breaking ground in a couple of months. And overall, it's about 18,000 square feet, and we're going to have 12 parking spaces and 12 units. Diving into why the developer decided to do mass timber and why we think mass timber, as a lot of people have mentioned, the pros outweigh the cons. I've mentioned earlier around the biophilia, the kind of internal spaces that you can create with mass timber. It's very warm, natural interiors, really differentiates the product, as you guys will see later in the project tour. And you can get all of these other benefits as well. So speed of construction is a big one that's been mentioned a lot, light foundations, and the sustainability benefits as well. So they were really the reasons why we went down this route, create a differentiated product, something that feels very different, and get as efficient a construction program and construction schedule as we can. So moving on to some of the challenges of mass timber, of this project in general. The main challenge we've had on this project isn't actually anything to do with the mass timber. It's the parking. It's a very tight site, and just getting the required parking in the layout that works has been a significant challenge, and one that we've been working with the city on to find a solution. But one that we went through actually quite a lot of iterations, but totally unrelated to the actual mass timber. And then something that is related to mass timber is something that people have spoken about a lot up here today, is just the level of coordination that's required. You really have to get into the 3D design very early, get into the MEP design very early. All of these mass timber elements are being prefabricated. All of the penetrations are being drilled before, so you have to have a really precise and detailed pre-construction process, and you have to really optimize your design if you're going to make it cost competitive. There's a lot of ways to make mass timber more efficient. You want to reduce the total volume of mass timber. That's obviously a big driver of cost, and you also want to reduce the number of penetrations, because each of those are a fabrication that are happening in the factory. So the less you're doing of that, the more cost that you're going to save. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of the project, and I know we've got a question session afterwards, so happy to meet anyone and answer any questions you have. In terms of Algoma and how we're taking what we've learned on this project and other projects forward is we've built a software product that allows for the evaluation of mass timber projects in a shorter period of time. So it allows the site feasibility, understanding what's possible on a site in a much shorter period of time, and getting into the details of how much mass timber is going to be required for a particular site, what the cost is, what are some suppliers that you can use for the particular project, and the different types of structural systems that are available for mass timber. Something's been touched on today, the post-to-beam structure versus point supported, what's it going to cost, because we've certainly found in talking to developers, that's always the first question. It's a newer product in the US, there are less examples of it, so how do you optimize mass timber projects, how do you reduce the cost, and what is that total cost going to be? And that's everything. So yeah, happy to answer questions. I know we have some questions after, but happy to answer any questions before them as well.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I really enjoyed listening to the presentation, and I truly think that it's going to be a good project for Water Avenue. So my question to you is, I've heard about the pros and cons, in most of the pros, which are incredible given the technicality and why it's being done. So my question now is, given that all of what we're doing also is actually part of a human-centered design, right, the lived experience of the people, do you have any mechanism of collecting user experience or lived experience, you know, of the neighborhood before or the user after, and maybe the impact in their health or lifestyle after the project, because I think that being able to allow this project to give us data or real data could maybe help educate other community and get people to buy into this whole innovation. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think surveying people who live in mass timber buildings, like the ones that have been pre-constructed, you've seen pretty positive responses, and something that you see actually in a numerical result is these mass timber buildings typically command a rent premium versus the alternative, and I think that shows how much people enjoy living in them because of your connection to nature, because of the biophilia, and you know, once our project is built, and you know, the Ann Street one's already got residents in it, and so there'll be the opportunity for Savannah and other communities to collect that data and to understand some of the benefits that come from these buildings and from living in them.
Any other questions? Thank you again for coming in and for presenting to our group. And I guess I would say one question that I do have for you is you all have participated in the New York Mass Timber Accelerator, and now you're participating in ours. I guess from your perspective, how does that help your firm? How does that help your firm in accelerating your projects? But not only that, the expertise, I guess, for your firm on building mass timber buildings.
Yeah, I mean, we're very thankful. Thank you for inviting us here and giving us the opportunity to present. You know, I think the Mass Timber Accelerator, its purpose is to serve as a hub for everyone who's interested in these types of projects, who has past experience and wants to be involved in the future. And I think organizations and setups like these can bring expertise together, people who are interested, and sort of serve as a lightning rod to encourage this type of development, like across Georgia and in Savannah. I think the benefits are pretty clear, and it just takes people having the interest and the ability to kind of make these projects happen. So yeah, we're very grateful that you guys pulled all of these people together, and yeah, we're excited to meet them.
Any other questions for any of our speakers? Any of us? Yes, sir.
One of my questions I have is just what is kind of like the lifetime of maintenance? Like you were talking earlier about sanding, just to kind of help with the beautification of the wood. Is that a concern with the mass timber? Like is it a 5-year cycle, a 10-year cycle, where you have to go in and kind of clean it up, beautify it?
The answer, of course, I'm a structural engineer, right? The answer is it depends. It depends on where it's located, right? So Tyler talked about sanding, some moisture issues. That was specifically during construction, before the building was closed up, right? If that building is closed up, and your glue lamp and your CLT, they're only exposed to the interior, there is not much you have to do with it. Now, exterior exposed wood is a different story, right? So oftentimes in our multifamily buildings, we have pressure treated lumber, pressure treated framing, womanized or parallel plus. That's what they are an exterior, right? You can pressure treat glue lamp, but you cannot pressure treat these mass timber panels. Aside from impregnating the panel itself, there just aren't machines big enough to accomplish it, right? We were talking about a 12-foot wide by 60-foot long panel. Now, there are treatments, multiple treatments that you can apply either at the manufacturing facility or on site that will protect your wood that is exposed to the exterior. A great example of this is at 110N. There is a pedestrian bridge that is all framed in glue lam and CLT. It's completely exposed, right? So while you can apply these finishes to these components, you also have to be aware, your owner has to be aware that they have to be more diligent about maintaining those than perhaps other building materials. But that is just the exterior exposed.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to pause here for just a second. I apologize for the questions. We have Kay Booth with us, who's the South Regional Manager for the American Wood Council. She came in a little late. I wanted to make sure I introduced her. So she works with our building officials across the Southeast on all of our wood projects.
Yeah, so if y'all have building code questions, or if you run into any jurisdictions that are kind of missing a mark or have, challenges with that, I know some of our jurisdictions are unfortunately just simply not familiar yet. So if ever y'all run into any of those problems, feel free to give us a shout. Anybody at the AWC can help you with that. Thank you.
And she's based right here in Savannah.
Any other questions?